take any area of your life. And if you don't like the results you're getting, you've just found a limiting belief, a story about yourself that is not aligned with what you're trying to create. Okay. You may not know what that story is yet, but when you find yourself at the end of the day not having taken the action you set out to take, right? Whether you call that procrastinating, and let's be clear, for anyone running their own business, procrastinating is usually not that you're sitting and binging on Netflix, right? Or doing mindless idle stuff. No, it's probably that you're busy, very busy, putting in long hours, just not on the things you kind of know would really take your business to the next level, right? And if you find yourself in a business setting in that situation, or in your relationship, avoiding the conversation you know you ought to have, now I can tell you what the belief is exactly that you're going to find. But I can tell you that there's something playing in the background that you had better get real clear on if you want to make actual progress. Because what determines what actions you take and don't take? That's your emotional state. And what triggers your emotions? It's those deeply held beliefs, right? It's those identity thoughts that you have about yourself that filter what information gets in and that trigger the response to it. So then how do you get there? Well, do you need a coach for it? No, you can probably do journal, you can probably do meditation, you can probably have a dialogue with yourself and eventually get there. But why do a lot of top performers, well, definitely in sports, but also in business, have coaches and often more than one? Well, because usually you can get deeper, faster with someone who pushes you, who helps to shine a light on that blind spot that we all have. I mean, I'm a coach. I have my own coach. Why? Coaches. Why? Because as my ex-wife used to say, well, for a coach, you really suck at taking your own advice. I'm like, no, I'm just human and have my own blind spots, right? So if you don't like the results that you have, and or you notice that you're not taking the actions you set out to do, let's just work with the assumption that there's a belief or a story you have about yourself, about your business playing in the background that gets in the way.
Yeah. And would you say that's similar to obviously the money side of things? It is generally down to some sort of series or set of limiting beliefs that are holding people back from reaching what they could do.
Yeah, maybe let me share an example to illustrate this, or maybe two, depending on, right? You tell me when it's too many stories. But
yeah,
see,
sure.
I had a coach join my small group program who had probably her biggest breakthrough before we actually started working, already in the conversation, right? I mean, the program is around money freedom mindset. And so obviously at some point, there's also a conversation about what you invest. And then if you haven't worked through your money mindset yet in this particular instance, that's often a very interesting and powerful conversation. Now, she realized that there was a lot of shame around actually spending money on herself. She was really good at giving to everyone else. And so there was a lot of emotional breaking through there before she even gave herself permission to join the program. Then we still did the deep dive and cleared up a lot of those stories. And then in the second part of the program, we go into implementation. And she comes back to one of our coaching calls and goes, yeah, I'm just really excited. I need to tell you something. I did something that in 4 of the coaching programs I had joined before this one, they all had told me, but I never did. And I did this thing, and in 24 hours, I added $1,000 to my business. And then, I had to ask her what that thing was, because I don't teach necessarily strategy, right? I come from, you already know what will take your business to the next level. And her experience was having removed the block around, one, shame around getting, spending on herself, but also receiving that money. Now she was actually free to implement what she had spent $15,000 with other people on, right? Getting as advice, right? Or, I mean, when you look at branding, right, and actually showing up. See, I know that when we talk about money mindset, we often get to also questions about what am I worth? What is my product worth, right? What is my coaching worth? It's money is a very emotionally charged set of stories and beliefs we have very often, which is why I use that as the back door into all the beliefs that are holding you back. And that is also why with some of my clients, I get to, like the conversation with Dan, who was just really afraid that if he put himself out there authentically, there would be a lot of backlash from his network, from his friends, from his family. He had a private Instagram account where he was very open, but he hadn't taken it right public yet. When really all the feedback he got from his followers there was that this is great stuff. Now we worked through what was holding him back. What was the fear, right? That got in the way of just showing up on social media, taking that Instagram account public. And when we cleared that block, he did. And that's when, his reels started getting 10,000 views. That's when 3 clients or potential clients a week started reaching out to him. And that's when he started signing clients just off what he had been doing all along, but in a more private area. Did I teach him what you do about branding and marketing? No, I did not. But the reason he didn't do what he knew would take his business to the next level was because there was a different story playing in the background. And creating that space, finding those stories and helping you do the work to actually upgrade them, right? Because they are emotionally charged. You've repeated them in your head thousands of times. Okay. That is the work that I do so that you can give yourself permission to build your business your way, whether that's on Instagram, on LinkedIn, or without social media at all. That's up to you. But if you're not where you want to be, chances are you're human. And as soon as you reach the edge of your comfort zone, doubt, fear, and all those stories are showing up, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, I was going to say comfort zone. When you're talking then about the taking that next step or the next leap, I always think of comfort zone as being something that if you can push yourself out of your comfort zone, it generally tends to help you grow in some way. But it can be really scary to do so, and there are things that always hold you back from that. And like you said, it's those edges of yourself almost that you have to find out where they are. So I was going to ask you, what's the single biggest thing that you see most of your clients struggling with? What's the thing that is a commonality amongst business owners and entrepreneurs?
I think no matter how successful you are, you will always reach your next breaking point where you feel scared, an imposter again, right? And just not good enough. And what I really appreciate is that by now, more and more of the people sort of leading the pack and being really successful also are a little more open about sharing that. So every so often you get glimpses into, I mean, even Beyonce had to create a second persona for herself so that she got over her imposter syndrome. And that was, just a few years ago, so well established in her career, right? So that's one thing. I think we're all human, and there might be a few more zeros involved for someone else as to where does it get scary. But we all have that point where it gets scary and where you get to, right, push yourself through there again. And I think with that comes, especially when you're still earlier in building your business, the struggle to consistently take action, because you don't see the results yet necessarily, right? You don't necessarily have the competence yet that creates the confidence to feel well in what you're doing. And that, I would say, is probably the second thing to focus on, because it's so easy to talk ourselves out of taking that uncomfortable action, right? One trap is waiting for motivation, right? Because there's a whole big area of personal development and speakers and all on motivation, on this mystical thing that we all have inside of us. And then when you have it, first it's a trickle, and then it builds into a river, and then it becomes this white water rafting river that carries you towards your goal. Well, the only problem with that is we've all been there, done that, right? Jump fully in, all motivated with this new idea. And then at some point, motivation just wears off. Take anyone who is successful though, and what got them to their level of success? Every overnight success is 10 years or more in the making, right? It's consistently doing the work, mastering whatever it is that you're doing. Motivation doesn't sustain you through that. Now, when you're buying that, when you start believing that, you might still catch yourself every so often. I sometimes do, waiting for the right moment, right? Well, that's the motivation trap. Okay, I can shift that. Now we're talking about taking consistent action. And now the next layer we use to talk ourselves out of it is, I need to know more. This has to be just right. I'm not done planning yet, right? Whatever your version of how to is, and there's a lot of how to you need to build your business, yes. And how to is usually another way of our mind keeping us safe, because as long as I'm stuck in how to, I don't have to go do that thing, right? I can still take another course, and I'm guilty, guilty as charged. All right, coaches love learning, right? So add an addiction to learning on top of it, and you know how I procrastinated, right? And sometimes still got to slap myself left and right, and face the fear and go do the thing. But how to is the next thing we latch onto, because it seems like if I can only figure out this, how to set up my brand, right? Or how to change my posts on LinkedIn, then I'm going to be ready to post consistently. Now it's the other way around. Once you have a system, once you set yourself up to post every day, yeah, you will learn, you will grow, you will develop things, you will screw up, sure, right? But that's how you build your business. So this is why I say the common denominator is you think you're the only one who feels afraid, right? You're the only one who doubts themselves. Everyone else is so much more successful and they can't possibly feel this. The fact that that's how you feel makes you the same as all of us.